In this video, I'm going to share with you 6 ways that you can increase your impact at work. They're easy to do, you can do them every day. They will ensure that you get noticed, that you work efficiently, and that you fast track your development. My name is Ali Phillips, and I have seen a lot of success within my career, and I want to share with you everything that I know so that you too can increase your impact and increase your success. All right, I'm going to go through the 6 ways to increase your impact at work one by one. The first one might seem really simple and straightforward, but it is participating actively in meetings. And it is ridiculous how many meetings I sit in where people just aren't engaged, or even worse, they're distracted and working on something different. And hot tip, if you're working on something different to the meeting that you're in and you're sitting on Zoom, it's really obvious. So just don't do it. If you're not going to engage actively in a meeting, then it's probably not worthwhile you being there, and it's a waste of your time and a waste of others. So how to be active? 1, really simple, be vocal. Ask a question, be engaged in the content, have an opinion, just be present. And, if you're, for instance, worried about asking a question that might seem dumb, then you can frame it up front and just say to the room, hey, do you mind if I ask a dumb question? And then go for it. 9 times out of 10, it's not actually a dumb question and someone else is also thinking it in the room. The second thing is to be involved, and that means take notes and play them back. Particularly if it's a meeting where you're not feeling like you have the right level of expertise, then just take notes on the decisions that are being made or the discussions that are being had and play them back. At least that way you're actively being engaged in the session, and it will also mean that you will trigger your memory easier in future. And finally, if you're the type of person who, it takes you a little bit to speak up in meetings, or it's something that you're not as confident in, then reach out to the person who's running the meeting beforehand and ask them if there's anything that you can prepare some thoughts on. They'll either have something that they can send you as a pre-read beforehand, or they can give you a bit more context, and that way you can prepare something up front. The second way to increase your impact at work is to follow up in writing, and that means documenting everything, whether that is decisions that are made in a meeting or just a general discussion. Document what you aligned on, document the decisions over email, and send that out to the people who were at the meeting or who were part of that discussion. Following up in writing is actually a great sign of discipline. And not only will it sort of show your professional manner to the people that you're working with, but they'll also build a level of trust in that you will follow through on the actions that came out of that session. It also saves you time. So there is countless times when people have aligned on a decision in a meeting, no one's followed up in writing, and then a few weeks later, people have just forgotten what the alignment was or forgotten what the actions were. So following up in writing actually saves you time because it avoids any confusion in future on expectations and who's owning what. The third simple and frankly quite lovely way that you can increase your impact at work is to encourage your peers. And there's a number of ways that you can do this, but firstly, just the reason why this is important is because strong relationships are a must in any business and also just in life. But in order for you to just get shit done at work, you need to have the support of other people. No one is successful on their own, and that includes individual contributors. I'm sure you still require the support of other team members in order to get your job done well. So just keep in mind, building strong relationships is a must. So encouraging your peers can form part of that. And there are some easy things that you can do to encourage your peers. One quick one is just, if they're doing a presentation, ask a question. It helps them, feel like they're not just this person up the front of the room and it's them against the rest of the room. It helps them feel like you're actually involved in what they're doing. Another easy thing is give them a great compliment or an honest comment at the end of their presentation. If you're comfortable to in front of the room, then say, great job, that was a really great presentation, or I found that really interesting, thank you for sharing. If you're not confident enough to do that in front of other people, then send, or if even just this is your preferred way of providing a compliment, then send a quick Slack or email with an authentic note to say to the person, hey, I found that really interesting, or I thought you did a great job, thanks so much for that. It takes you 2 seconds, but the impact that will have on someone's day is huge. And the reason you want to do this type of stuff is because it builds camaraderie, it builds support, it builds the foundations of strong relationships. And the reality is every small act of kindness adds up and starts to build those strong relationships, which is what you need to be successful in business. The fourth way that you can increase your impact at work is through communicating your outputs. It is really important to remember, and this is actually even more so given we're now working remotely quite often, but it's really important to remember that your team, your leader, or other leaders in your department, they don't always know what you're working on. It's not, they're not sitting there thinking every day, oh, Ali's doing XYZ at the moment. And it's really important that you continue to communicate your outputs and your work to the people within your team and the people within your close circle. So really simply, that can look like in whips, just being prepared when you're in your team, your weekly team whips, which I'm just assuming that you're part of. But in that, just being very clear on, these are the projects that I'm working on, projects A, B, C, and I have made inroads in them by doing X, Y, Z. Other things you can do is send a really simple 5-minute email that provides an update on a project that you're working on. That can be to the project group, to your people leader, but also to the wider stakeholder group. And that's just we've launched product X today. These are the results that we're seeing, and here's what's next. Or it could be, here's an update on this project, here's where we're at, these are the decisions that we've made, this is still what's yet to come. We expect to have final confirmation on this by this date. Really simple emails that just remind people what you've been working on and the impact that it has for the business. You could also share a finished report or a finished output through email to your wider team, just as an FYI, and also to your leadership team. So this could be a finished report. It could even be, creating an asset on something that you've been working on. So say you've been pulling some data for your boss, pull that into 1 or 2 slides and send it to your wider team to be like, hey, I've sent this is something that Ali requested, but it might be of use to everyone else. And just that simple email will remind people of what you're working on, the outputs that you have, and it might even be useful for them as well. You could also offer to present it at the next team meeting, or or actually set up a separate presentation. And again, it's just going to keep you top of mind and remind people of the types of things that you're doing. Finally, just a quick tip on this. It's really important to balance the level of effort that you put into the comms with the importance of the work. And, in your whips and things like that, where you're providing updates, just be careful of the balance of providing an update versus bragging. No one wants to hear about all of the work that you're doing in a way that is exhausting. So don't sit there and list off, oh, I'm doing this and this and this and this. No one gives a shit. But what they do care about is the things that actually have impact for them, or the things that have impact for the business. So be humble, and balance the time that you're spending on your comms with the importance of the work. The fifth way that you can increase your impact at work is just to be really clear on the business priorities and get clear on what's important. So what that means is ensure that you're working on the business priorities first. Those are the things that you are getting done first in your day, and they're the things that you're focusing your communication on. And when you are communicating about these outputs, connect them with the business strategy. So, here is an update on project X. This clearly links with the strategic pillar of A that is sitting on our overall objectives. But again, back to the last point on the previous slide, be humble about it, and just one simple sentence is all you need, but ensure that you are able to connect the priorities that you're working on with the business strategy. And that's just good practice for yourself as well, to ensure that what you're working on actually matters. And then it is always important to have stretch projects so that you are pushing not only yourself and your development, but also pushing what you're delivering for your team. But make sure that you're focusing on these secondary to the business priorities. The sixth and final way that you can increase your impact at work is to ask for feedback. And this is from anyone and everyone in the team. It's so important to do this because it builds self-awareness, and it builds self-awareness through gaining lots of different and new perspectives on how you're showing up at work and the quality of your work. The reason why this is important is because we all have blind spots and we're not aware of them. And until you are open to feedback and requesting feedback, you're not going to learn what they are. If you do this, you will develop quicker because you build that self-awareness and you understand your gaps, and then you start to work on filling those gaps. And also it shows a willingness to learn about yourself and an ambition to grow, which are qualities that any business will value. Just on this though, make sure that you are really open to the feedback. There's nothing worse than people who ask for feedback and then they just don't even listen to it, or they ignore it, or worse, they defend it and then turn around and give you feedback instead. So only ask for this if you're actually open and willing to listen and willing to change, because if you're not, it actually can cause more tension in a relationship than help. And the last point here is just be open to receiving this from your peers, your manager, and your direct reports if you have them. So that's it. That summarizes the 6 ways to increase your impact at work. So first was participate in meetings, be active, be engaged, be present, follow up in writing, document everything. Maybe not everything, but document most things, the things that are important, because it does save you time, it builds discipline, and it gets rid of any confusion in the future. Encourage your peers. It's a nice thing to do. It's really simple and you'll build relationships really quickly. Communicate your outputs. It's so important to ensure that people are actually aware of what you're working on. And if you communicate your outputs, you're just going to increase your impact at work. Get clear on what's important and focus on the business priorities, and ask for feedback so you can acknowledge your potential blind spots and gaps and just build a bit of self-awareness. If you found this helpful and you want to see similar content, I have a shit ton more, so like and subscribe below.